Hey there, my name is Rachael and welcome to the Magdala podcast. We at Magdala know from experience that pornography, masturbation, and other sexual addictions are not just a guy problem. The need for women to be accompanied in a journey towards healing from addiction has gone sorely unmet, and that's why we're here. Magdala exists as a space where women can find hope, healing, and freedom alongside each other from sexual addiction. Our goal is to supply you with support, community, and accountability. Here on the podcast, you'll find everything from testimonies to practical advice to dialogue about how to heal and live fully as a Catholic woman. Wherever you are in your journey, know that you're not alone, and we welcome you to this table. I'm really going to try not to burp with my sparkling water here. Just going to belch.
Like I said, it would be cute.
I don't know if it would be cute. This happened on Pints with Aquinas when I had Topo Chico, the mineral water.
Yes. Oh, I love Topo.
That stuff makes you burp. It makes you belch, right? But so Matt Fraud gave one to me on Pints with Aquinas, and I had so many people ask me afterward. They're like, "How did you not burp?" And I was like, "Literally the grace of God." It's just the grace of God. Yes. Okay, well, welcome everybody to the Magdala podcast. Today I have my dear friend Jackie Minton on with me, and I've been really looking forward to recording this episode.
Ditto.
Thank you. Jackie is an artist. She's a musician. We got to know each other here in Nashville. We were actually roommates for a little while, so that was just lovely.
Less time.
It was a great time being your roommate. And then you are now in Tejas.
Yes.
Yeah.
The great
state of Tejas, which you're from. You're from Texas originally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Your whole life.
Back home.
Yeah.
Which is a beautiful, hard, good thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, and so tell us about your music, Jackie. What are you currently working on?
Currently. So I have been working on a series of music videos from my last record, which is Earnest Voice. I'm coming up on a year since I've released that.
Unbelievable.
I released it on the Feast of St. Joseph. So, yes.
I can't believe it's been that long.
I know.
That's nuts to me. I remember that release party. That's wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. So now I'm working on other songs and hopefully other recordings to be released late this year. But just sort of figuring it out, teaching music lessons, outside of that, and performing as I can at bars or churches, whoever will have me. So
wow. Bars and churches. Man, that's Catholic artistry if I've ever heard it. So what do you believe led you into music originally? When did that calling begin, and how do you find, I guess, the expression that you're looking for? I'm trying to find a way to phrase this question, but what about art through music has called to you, I guess?
It's a good question. Yeah, it's interesting because music came first for me before, or I should say I was introduced to music before I was introduced to Jesus as a person that I could have a personal relationship with.
Yeah.
And walk with and love and be loved by, because I was raised Catholic, but I didn't have that experience of seeing yes, this is not just a set of rules or a good feeling that I can have once a week, but this is a person that has given me all of my life and wants all of my life and wants to give me more of my life, so falling in love with music, first, I think it's been a journey of discovering my calling with music being a gift from the Lord before I knew the giver, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now that I know, how much I love the Lord and how much he loves me through this gift, I think now I've discovered that my call is to share as much of myself and of my experience through art.
Yeah.
To show the hands of the Lord just all over it. And then in sharing my art, I'm getting to share his.
Oh, jeez. Same. For our listeners, I've had the pleasure of getting to hear some Jackie Minton originals before they're recorded. You came, how many weeks
Very
ago
much
did you
so.
come? You came.
It was a month ago, actually.
Are you serious? Was that a month ago?
Serious.
I'm in a time
Maybe
warp.
a little bit less.
No,
Maybe
you're
just
right.
like a couple days short.
Oh my
But
gosh,
yes.
I'm in such a time warp. Yeah. Yeah, so I just, it's such a gift whenever you play me anything and show me anything in its raw form. I think that's always like when I encounter the beauty of your work most potently. But you do have a song called Stain that we wanted to talk about today. So that's on,
Yes.
it's on your first album, correct?
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. It was my first project. So I recorded that when I was a wee little 18-year-old.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
I
so
basically,
beautiful though.
thank you. I took basically my graduation money from high school graduation and just put it into recording.
That's awesome.
Like any teenager, you know?
Yeah, that's a normal thing. That's fine.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, every piece of that was blessed. It was definitely a learning experience, and there are things that I wish that I could go back and change about that project, but that's the beauty, you know, of any piece of art. It captures a moment in time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that song specifically, I think I wrote my junior year.
Okay. Of high school.
Maybe, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 16, 17, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah.
But it's a song that I keep getting, I guess, reminded of.
Yeah.
There's a friend that visited me. Shout out to Luke Walther.
Nashville native Luke Walther.
And before he came, he was like, FYI, I'm gonna need you to play Stain for me while I'm in town. So, so I had to practice it beforehand because it had been so long since I played this song. It's not one that I typically pull out for shows.
Yeah.
And then by virtue of that, it gets rusty over time. And so I was going back and remembering it, or relearning it, however you want to say it. But yeah, it's a song that people typically point back to if they ever make it past my most recent record and they venture down into 18-year-old Jackie land. Then this is that's like usually the song where they're like, but Stain.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't remember exactly when I wrote it. Like I can't pin down a moment.
But it's so
whereas
resonates
a
with
lot of my
people.
songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of my songs I typically can point to, like, oh, I was doing this, or this friend said this and it inspired that. And this song is very much just like it captures a moment
For sure.
of wrestling inside of me and expresses that. But I don't know exactly when it happened.
Yeah. So would you explain the concept as wrestling, or what would you explain the concept of Stain as?
Yeah.
For those who haven't listened to it.
I would say, right. I would say more of it as realizing,
Okay.
and realizing that eventually led to wrestling. Because I think that we can be so oblivious of our sin.
Yeah.
We're just so blind to our brokenness, in particular. We're really good at seeing it on other people, but when it comes to ourselves, pretty blind typically. And so this song, just, it's like it captures that moment for me of realizing I have sinned. I am broken. I'm not as clean as I once was. And then from there, inviting the Lord into that. And the song doesn't specifically say Jesus or Holy Spirit. Like there's no religious context written into the song, but as a person of prayer, that was definitely came into the maybe not even the intention, but it came out in the experience that I was trying to capture.
Wow.
I do remember that when I first wrote it and I played it for my mom, there's a lyric in the bridge that's just like rain, rain, pour down, wash the stain out. I want to be clean.
Yeah.
And it repeats that a couple times. And I remember contemplating going back and forth. And I was like, what if I changed that to spirit? Or like maybe I had originally written a spirit and then I changed it to rain. Like I was going back and forth. And she was like, you don't talk about the spirit anywhere else. Keep it rain.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I was like, so, you know, my mom gave great writing advice that day. She would be very proud. Will be very proud to hear that I admitted that.
Oh my gosh. That's so cute.
So yeah, grateful for her. It always takes a village. And that's why I'm so grateful for days where I just get to sit and play guitar in front of you.
Oh, thank you, friend. Thank you. No, I'm always deeply honored. But looking at Stain now, like, is there a particular sin that you think it's about?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. So in junior high, I was addicted to masturbation, and that sin just clung to me up until high school. When I realized it was a sin, I didn't know it at first.
Yeah.
But definitely felt dirty from it, you
Sure.
know. And
when did you how did you discover it was a sin? Because I think that's that's an incredibly common experience. But how did you discover that? Like, and what was the gut reaction like in that moment?
Yeah. I think I was probably in 9th grade.
Okay.
It may have been a DCYC or a retreat
Sure.
sort of thing. And just like, having speakers that were bold enough to talk about sexual sin, and realizing that was a sin, that was a wall that I was allowing to build up between me and the Lord, me and other people, me and my family.
Yeah.
And it was a wall that I had felt, but I didn't realize was me putting it up.
Yeah.
And that there was something that through grace I could do about it.
Wow.
Because you just feel so helpless. I felt so helpless in that. And I continued to feel despair until I was in confession, or I should say I was at a retreat. And I think this was probably my junior year of high school, going into senior year, or it may have been the year before, but it was after I had written Stain. And just realizing at that retreat, nothing that I could say, absolutely nothing, could shock the priest. He's heard literally everything.
Yeah.
My sin is not new. It may feel new to me, but it's not. It's not sensational. It's not even worthy of like the front page. Not even worthy of like footnotes. Like it's just not. No. It's not new. There is nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
And having that realization, I almost made it, I don't want to say laughable, but it just like Jesus just finally revealed to me that my darkness was not too dark for his light. And that I could, he wanted me to bring it there. And to let him take down that wall. Yeah. And after confessing that, I didn't feel like it wasn't like a Holy Spirit peace, where it was like, that was amazing. That was my best confession ever.
Right.
Like the priest was amazing. Like it was simple. I didn't feel much different, but I knew that I was free. Yeah. And that from there I could choose. Choose the Lord, and when I fell, continue to choose him and to come back to him. And to just straight up ask for the grace of purity. Like the Lord wants to give us good gifts. And so seeing my brokenness then put me in a place where I could ask for what I needed. And that changed everything.
Yeah. And I think you're hitting at like a key thing here of, that your darkness is not too dark for him, you know? And, that's like scriptural, like our darkness is not too dark for
Yeah.
you. Yeah. And
Yeah.
or darkness is not too dark for you. And like darkness is as day.
Is as light. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, it's a very common, I know I experienced that feeling, and it's a very common feeling amongst the women we serve. Because when you're not given a context, and I just wrote this in my book the other day that I'm working on, but like when you're not given a context for female sexual sin, you think God has no context for it. Like when there's no conversation, giving this a place at least of acknowledgement, like bringing it to light. Like if the church doesn't do that,
shining light on it.
Yeah. Then you're like, okay, then Jesus doesn't have a context for it. You know, when the voice of the church doesn't articulate the voice of God in that way, it's very hard to approach him and think that he has a place for us in front of him when we're carrying this. But yeah, we have one session of our curriculum that's dedicated to meditating on John chapter 8 with the woman caught in adultery, which is like such a great passage for women in particular. And I was sharing it with one of my groups the other day, and the girls' reactions were just so authentic, but they were saying, you know, when Jesus dismisses her accusers and then says like, you know, woman, where are they? Where are your accusers? And she says, no one, or I don't see them, and in different translations. And he says, you know, neither do I condemn you. Go now and leave your life of sin. The girls' reactions were authentic because they were like, I feel like Jesus just doesn't care that much. Like, I feel like I care more about my sin than Jesus does in this context. But I think that's getting at what you're saying, is that like, he truly means it when he's like, where are your accusers now? Like, what is your sin in light of my forgiveness? Like, where are they? Like, I don't condemn you. And that's not triviality. That's just like, it's part of the unseriousness of who we are.
Yeah, it's him actually washing us clean.
Exactly. And that we're supposed to take that seriously, like more seriously than ourselves. But yeah, I think too, the ordinariness of confession. People ask me about my first confession experience with pornography, and I don't clearly remember it. I don't, because it was an ordinary confession, and it was, so I felt something similar. But what did temptation look like for you after? So what did that path to freedom and choosing grace and purity look like afterward?
Yeah. Anytime that I encounter the temptation to turn inwards, to seek my own satisfaction, from then on, the Holy Spirit reminded me and continues to remind me that I am meant to bear life, specifically as a woman in my relationships, and that any sort of turning it inward in sin, in any sin, is keeping us from those that we're meant to love, is keeping us from love, and realizing that I'm meant to not just like give a gift physically, spiritually, emotionally, but I am a gift through my presence. And I will be a gift, and specifically that my sexuality as a woman is meant to be a gift in any vocation. And learning to see myself in the eyes of Jesus and to live in that light. It is the grace to choose purity.
Peaking thoughts as usual. For those of you who don't know, like when Jackie and I have conversations, usually one of us says something and the other sits in silence for like 3 minutes thinking of a response.
Right. We'll just have to edit out
so it's a little bold for us to record a podcast. Yeah, it's a little bold. Yeah, and what I love about Stain, not to like backtrack, but the first line, you're I'm tired of being tired. Like,
it's still so dang true.
Yeah. And so the exhaustion we feel from our sin, because it is the opposite of life. It's bearing death. It's like literally bearing death upon ourselves, right? So it's exhausting. And women have this beautiful potential to either be vessels of life or of death. And we do make a choice. But I think that I'm tired of being tired. Like I had one woman after a retreat I spoke at, and I sat in a room off to the side so women could come and speak. And I think that's my favorite. Those are my favorite encounters, I think, is sometimes speaking to women for the first time after they've heard that they're not alone, and getting to look them in the eye and like be their sister in that. That's like my favorite. I think that might be my favorite part of what we do. But I had one girl who sat, and I spoke in my talk about how you have to admit this to yourself. Like the truth will set you free. Like you have to admit it to yourself. And I know you have thoughts on that too. We can talk about it in a second, but she sat in front of me just with tears streaming down her face, and she had her eyes closed, and I was just crying with her because she was so profoundly beautiful. But she was like, I'm finally ready to admit to you for the first time in my life, I'm a pornography and masturbation addict, and I am so tired. I am so tired. And I was just filled with hope at this young woman, because I was like, this is so beautiful. Like, look at your vulnerability, and there's so much hope for your recovery because you're willing to say that. Like, I am tired of myself. I can't do this anymore. And she was tired of trying to fix it on her own. And I think I will remember that for the rest of my life. Like, that was one of the most profound encounters I've had after speaking. But I mean, yeah. And you spoke a little bit about, just in kind of our discussions about this conversation, like, facing off with sin. Like, you can't confess it until you stare it down. So like, what about that is still resonating?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to backtrack too, just a little bit. You said how, like, that you were moved because she was so beautiful. Yeah. Even in confessing her sin. And it's like, wow, if that is true for us and our friends, or even this woman was a complete stranger to you. Yeah. How much more is that true for the Lord? Yeah. And
that's so true.
Yeah. Yeah. But that moment of being able to stare down the sin, and not to stare it down and focus on it, but to look at it and say, that is not me. Right. That is something I have done, but that is not me, and that does not define my life. It doesn't define where I go. It doesn't define whose I am. Yeah. And that, no, Satan, actually I'm the Lord's. So good riddance. Yes. But that this song specifically was a moment of staring down my own brokenness, or at least even just like, looking in the mirror and being like, okay, that's where I am. It's not where I have to stay. But having the ability to ask for grace, ask for newness, ask for restoration requires that we face off where we are and look at the brokenness and not by ourselves either, but with the Lord. Yeah. And asking the Holy Spirit to convict us of our sins. Like, the Holy Spirit will not pass up the opportunity to when we pray that. When we pray that prayer, He'll do it.
Yes, careful what you wish for. Yes, don't do it unless you're ready. Yeah. Yes.
But He will. And then He won't leave us there. That He'll give us the grace to go to confession, to seek out the Lord, to receive His forgiveness and His love.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And it's brutal. That conviction is brutal. And I think your song gets at that. There's actually a song I've been listening to lately called Beautiful and Brutal. And I think it's talking about a human relationship. But it's talking about like how true love is beautiful and brutal. Like, it cuts deep and makes you bleed. Like, it makes you like feel that you're alive. And yeah, and at first I listened to the song, I was like, is this like unhealthy? And then realizing like, no, like, that is the Lord's love. It's like an open, bleeding heart, and He asks for the same from us. Is like, okay, He asks for us to experience the raw carnality of what His love is capable of, which can be terrifying. But did you find writing music is healing for you, or was healing for you, and playing
for sure.
it?
Always, yeah. Even when it produces messy songs such as this one, or I should say it comes out of a messy place. Yeah. But there are a number of songs where it's like, I write it and then I'm afraid of the song afterwards. Like, it's like, oh, whoa, didn't realize that was down in there.
You've said that to me before. You're like, I'm afraid of this chorus. And I'm like, oh boy.
But like also realizing like that's good.
Yeah.
Because that means that it's, I mean, not by virtue of being afraid of it, but by virtue of what that means, to me, is that this is vulnerable, which means it's true to my experience, which means I'm capturing something of God's hand in my life. And so many, like, what looks like, again, and this is again, like, even like going back to the way that Jesus sees us, like what looks like a mess to us, where we're like, this is too dark, this is too much for you, creator of the universe, to handle. Like, what? Right. Is when we think that we're a mess, God is like in the midst of his most beautiful work of art. Like we think of it as a mess, and it's really, a friend of mine was saying, like, use this word to me, but it's like, I kept calling myself a mess, and he was like, no, you're a half finished fresco, like just not done yet. But like, what if you like looked at, like, I don't know, Van Gogh, like halfway done, or Monet, like halfway done, it's gonna be like, that's messy and gross, and why are the colors like they are? But we want like life to be like snap Polaroid picture, like shake it and develop, and it's like there in my hand, like not even, or take a picture on our phone and it's like, oh wow, that's gorgeous. Like we can't even edit our photos anymore. Like we just let iPhones take the most perfect photo possible and then edit it too. But it's not the process of art that we're in. It's work, and it's messy, and we're still becoming, and that's a gift.
Yeah, I love that, because I think the contentment with messiness, I think most people know they're a mess, like deep down. It's just like the contentment isn't there. And in recovery, I've expressed that before, is like you both have to have this like utter tenacity to never return to where you came from. But then you have to have like this contentment with where you are, and that healing from sexual sin will be lifelong. Like it doesn't end.
It will be a journey. Yeah.
And I think it was Sister Miriam James Hyland who said, she was like, we're always healing because Jesus's love never ends, or something like that. I was like, slap, school us all. Like, I feel like I quote her in every podcast I have. Everybody should just burn my whatever podcast and go listen to hers. Anyway, no, I don't know if you can burn a podcast. I don't know. Yeah, so. Whatever. It's complicated, but you can turn off my podcast. Go listen to Sister Miriam James. But no, I think that's just it. Is that like we have to be content with where the painting is at today. And I think it's this quote from Prince Caspian. Perhaps I've quoted this on the podcast before. I always quote C.S. Lewis too on the podcast. It's fine. It's part of life. Yes. But it's in Prince Caspian, where I think Aslan says to he says to one of the human characters, like, you come from the Lord Adam and Lady Eve, and that is enough, both to erect the head of the poorest beggar and to bow low the most powerful emperor. Be content. Dang. Yeah, be content. Like that is like, I just re-encountered that quote recently and put it into a paper I was writing, because it's so powerful. It's like, your humanity is both like this incredible mark of glory, and also like this horrific reality that you have to encounter. Of humility of like over and over and over, of like you perpetually fall short, but you're destined for heaven. Like, what is that about? Like, where's that tension is very hard to live in, but I think people in recovery from sexual sin and healing have the potential to really press into that tension and what it means and the beauty of that tension. And I'm terrible sometimes at pressing into it myself. But the most profound moments are the moments where I allow my humanity to be like, okay, I suck, but I'm awesome at the same time, because God said so. And there's something to that. Yeah.
And he does say so.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
He does.
Mm.
There's I think you and I have talked about this before. There's that form of art with the shattered pieces. What is this
I'm
called?
gonna say it wrong. Kintsugi is the word that comes to mind, or the pronunciation.
Yeah, I don't.
But yeah, it's this Japanese form of art that where they take a bowl or something that's been or a plate, something that's been shattered or broken, and instead of throwing it away like we would here in the United States,
Yeah.
they take it and fill in all of the cracks with gold.
It's beautiful
And
stuff too. It's
it is so
incredible.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I knew how to spell it, I would tell you all to go Google it right
We can put some
now.
in the show notes. We can find it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But there's this one artist that I absolutely loved, named Mako Fujima, and he actually has like some talks and like different videos online where he talks about this kind of art and what it represents. But are we not also these broken shards
Yeah.
of pottery, vases, bowls that are more beautiful now
Yeah.
because they were broken. And without that brokenness, it like makes me want to go back and rewrite Stain almost, because something that I say is like, so take me back to where we started.
Yeah.
Tell me it's okay. But actually it's better than that. We're not supposed to go back to where we started, but we get to carry our experiences with the Lord transformed and reclaimed for his purposes,
That's profound.
and filled in with gold.
Oof. And I think that's why people ask me if I regret like my addiction. And I say no.
Wow.
It's so weird. Like I say I regret objectifying myself, objectifying other people. I regret believing counterfeits. But do I regret the journey? No. Like I can't. Like I just feel like I can't, because there's been such profound beauty that has come out of it, and
Because
opportunity.
it brought you here
It did.
to walk with other people.
Yeah. Like how can I regret that? Like getting to know a
Yeah.
part of women's hearts that is so privileged and, hidden away and in need of accompaniment. So I don't know if you feel that way, or just about mess in general as an artist. Like, can you regret your mess? Is
Wow.
that possible?
Yes, I am guilty of regretting my mess all the time. But again, I think it comes from that place of like being more, quote, obsessed with the mess than Jesus is, where I'm like, this is so broken. And he's like, literally, I've got it. Like,
Can you chill? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Go to confession when you can. And I'm like, I not only do I have it covered, like it is just taken care of, like all the way. It is not,
And I want to
not a
take care
thing
of
in my
it.
mind. Yes.
I
Oh,
want
and
to
he
take care of it.
loves to take care of it.
Yup.
Like, he's like, my treat, my privilege. Thank you. And
That's-
then here we are, like, let
Yeah.
me take care of this one part before I give it to you, or like anything.
Yeah.
He's like, no, just like put it in my hands, please.
That's something about Jesus that I still fail to understand constantly, is that he loves to be my savior. I suck at believing that. And I feel like he has to remind me of that all the time, where that's the joy of his heart. That's like why he became man. And I think we forget that it is the joy of his heart to save us. He loves nothing more than a child who needs to be saved, and admits that, and allows him to do it, and then lives from that place. That's very, very difficult. And I don't know, two things about that.
You seem to know some things.
I know it in concept. Do I know it in practice?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. But I think, again, recovery puts you in that place of vulnerability where you have to, or you have to learn, you have to try, over and over and over. That's why, like, the 12-step program for any addiction, one of the first steps is admitting, like, you're powerless. like I'm powerless and there's a higher power who wants to help me. And so, I mean, since they're not going to be like defined by one religious sect or, you know, like article of belief, they let you kind of articulate what your higher power is. But there's something so profound about that of like, I'm powerless and there's a higher power that wants to help me and that can help me. And because in addiction, you're so entrenched in, I got myself into this, so I will get myself out of it. And it's impossible. It's impossible. So yeah, you have to encounter that over and over and over before it's done.
Yeah. And like you said, we'll never be done.
No, we will never be done. Isn't that great? That can either be terrifying or it can be like, damn, my painting's going to be beautiful at the end of this.
Yes.
It's going to be fine.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And what have you found about like communicating about brokenness through music? Because a lot of your music does communicate so well about the human condition. I'm thinking of your and I highly recommend all of our listeners go and listen to Jackie's music after this. We'll link her in the show notes. But I'm thinking of your pre-release party that you did for some of us here in Nashville. Because we were going on retreat that weekend.
Right.
But is it Carry You? Yeah. I think it was Carry You.
That's the last song.
Oh my gosh. Like Tommy and I were both like so moved by Carry You. That was like, because that articulation again is like, could you just let me do it?
Yes.
And so that's perhaps why I was moved by it. But
wow. Yeah, that's scratch this whole episode. We should have talked about that song.
We should have talked about Carry You. We should do another one where we talk about Carry You. No.
Redo it.
But I mean, in a beautiful way, I think Carry You is the answer to Stain, you know? Like it's almost like God's answer to it, you know?
Wow. Oh, Rachael.
Insights into Jackie's music catalog.
Because I wrote Carry You after Stain.
Oh, okay.
It may have been my senior year of high school.
Oh, geez.
It might have been, I took a year off and served with a ministry called Net Ministries right after high school.
Woot woot.
And it was I either wrote it the summer after that or at some point senior year summer before. But it was at a point, I think it could have been my senior year because I think I remember not choosing to record that song on Searching for Now. But I can't say with any certainty. But either way, it was chronologically after I wrote Stain.
Right, because the concept of Carry You is like God asking us to let him carry us.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
That is literally the concept. Yeah. And that's why it's so profound. So again, I want to make sure we like reiterate what we're talking about so people don't get lost in the weeds.
For sure.
But
yes.
So is that when the addiction ended? Would you like when did you enter into active recovery? Was it after that confession experience or was it senior year?
Mm-hmm. It was after that confession experience.
Okay.
Like I would say alongside of it. But then, as you know, recovery is not like I'm healed. No, that was it.
It's a marathon.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that was the moment of initiation. And continually just the Lord revealing and granting me the grace of purity and shining a light on here is where my vision is still skewed. Or I have not entrusted him to take care of all of the desires of my heart. And that he loves to. That's something that I'm going to have to take to prayer after this.
Oh my gosh. Me too.
Yeah. Yeah. But I would say like the intense period of recovery was like that next 2 years where it was like a continual fight of giving that over to the Lord and returning for his mercy.
Yeah. As I had something very similar. Yeah. I understand that very, very well. And I think because our topic more was about like beauty today is what we thought about. Was what we thought we were talking about. who knows what we end up actually
We're
titling
actually
this
talking about
episode.
mess.
Yeah. Oh, isn't that, ironic? But there was, I think that act of returning, and allowing myself to be in that position time and time again in front of the Lord, of that this is a journey. This is like an uphill climb up a mountain. And you're with me every step of the way. But there was something about, I think there is something about beauty for women, like re-encountering themselves as beautiful, that is part of like the healing process. And I think music is particularly helpful in helping people see this. This is part of why we have the healing playlist on Magdala's website, and we're perpetually adding songs to it, because I encourage women. I'm like, you have to fill your head and your heart with beautiful content, because you're used to smut. Like, that's what you've been pouring into yourself, and you have to fill yourself with beauty.
Right.
And I think, music was incredibly helpful for me, but also realizing like that I am creative, I'm beautiful. Like, this is like, I don't just have like,
you're made in the image of the greatest creator.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and kind of going back to the, like, I'm an unfinished painting, like I'm something being created, continually. And like, not only can I fill myself with beautiful things like music, books, movies, like art, all of these things. At this point, I'm just giving the love good rah-rah. Shout out to Jimmy Mitchell. But not only can I fill myself with these good things, but I am capable of being that. I am capable of being that presence. And I think when you're entrenched in sexual sin, you feel so ashamed of your body and your mind, and your mind feels the opposite of creative, or it feels creative like only on behalf of like dirt and sin. Like, all I am capable of creating in my mind is sin. But discovering like, and I do think music had an insane role in helping me see this, is like, okay, not only can I fill my own mind and heart with this, I can be a source of that for other people. I can be something that fills people's hearts, or what I create can fill people's hearts. Or God creating me can fill people's hearts in that way. I remember discovering that very like much later on in my college years, when I was in active ministry at that point with this topic. And I was just like weeping in my car, discovering that it's like, wait, I'm beautiful. Like, what?
You are.
Oh, thank you. Gorgeous. So are you. Thank you. So are all the women I encounter. Like, that's the thing, is the women I have conversations with through Magdala, I'm like, what? Like, they're all just so profoundly beautiful. But yeah, that's a rambling that may or may not make sense to anybody who's listening. But there it is. Mess. Yeah, but I think you as an artist have a unique, and JP too is so, in his letter to artists is so.
That letter changed my life.
Yeah, just tape it everywhere, write it on a post-it note, have it in front of your face at all times, tattoo it on your body.
Right. No, it is pretty long for a tattoo, but
yeah, find a quote. I don't know. It's like, it's just so beautiful. But he talks about that, how like your vocation is to steward beauty to the world, and like Yeah. Do you feel that?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Not all the time, for sure. Since we have the lyrics to Stain in front of us, and I just keep looking back at like verse 2 is like calling my name right now. With like, I'll pretend to close my eyes, act like I never knew that none of the tears I cry would ever make me new.
Oof.
And yeah, that it's not our despair that makes us new. It's Jesus.
Wow.
And entrusting that to him. Because yeah, when I look at my brokenness and turn that into a song, or any part of my life, whether it's like I'm on cloud 9 or beneath the cloud, whatever it is, like, it's not me sharing it that makes it healing, or a gift. It's like Jesus uses that. But yeah, it's like, sometimes I feel like, I don't know, as an artist, you just like, and I shouldn't say that as an artist, as a human, you second guess yourself.
Right.
Especially when you share something that you've made. It's like, oh no, now people will judge me based off of this work or
Yeah.
off of this
Yeah.
podcast or off, based off of this quote. And it's like, okay, yeah, but screw it. It's all the Lord's.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And he's going to do what he wants with it. But that there's a beauty in that vulnerability, and that he does not let a single tear of ours touch the ground without using it.
Oh, wow. I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dang.
That didn't really answer your question.
No, I don't think my question demands an answer. I think podcasts are good for talking. That's what they're for. Well, and yeah, as we went down, is there anything that you could say, if you could speak to young women who are either entrenched in the struggle now, or perhaps even at the age that you were, if you could say anything now, what would you say? Other than the music you've written that speaks to this, but what would you say?
You are not alone. You are not your sin. You not only can have forgiveness, but you deserve it. And the Lord has it like on his hands, reached out to you, just like, and is with you like continually. Whenever we like take the gift and we drop it or throw it on the ground, he's like already like putting it back together with gold and like putting it back and offering it to us again. And his mercies are new every day.
Wow.
So
thank you.
So go and receive that mercy. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Okay. Well, it was a gift to have you, Jackie.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, it was such a gift to have you. Thank you for being here. Yes, no, I definitely felt like we just got to catch up over coffee, which was lovely. But for those of you who want to find Jackie, where is the best place to find you, Jackie?
JackieMinton.com is definitely the best place to find me. I have a little letters list. It's like email, but better is what my website says. I just shoot people, like family, friends, messages when I'm about to release a song or if I'm working on something related to music or big life change that I want to share with the people that are close to me. So
awesome.
If that is something that you're interested in, you can go to JackieMinton.com/little letters, or just go to my website and it'll have a little letters tab and you just click there. But yeah, I shouldn't say all of the social medias, but I'm on, the interwebs. You can find me.
A great deal.
Yes.
A great deal of the interwebs. Yeah. We'll plug you in or we'll put it in the show notes. Yeah. And for those of you who haven't found Jackie's music, I highly encourage you to do so. I think we Spotify, do have a couple of Music. Them. Yeah. On our healing playlist. Spotify, Apple Music. Yes. Perfect. And then your music videos on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are fun.
Those are delightful.
Little things. So
those are delightful. Yeah, and for those of you who like this episode, please subscribe, share, especially with somebody who you think might need it. And if you are in need of small group accountability, please check out our website and click the link to join a group. We have rolling admission at all times. So if you're a woman in need of accountability and support, we have a place for you. If you're a woman who is in recovery or has recovered from a struggle with sexual sin, we encourage you to become a small group moderator and help us serve other women and share your journey with other women. We are looking for moderators actively right now. So that application is through our join link as well on our website. Furthermore, if you want exclusive content, book studies, random questions, etc., join our Patreon. That's how we support ourselves right now. So we appreciate all of our patrons. Thank you for being a part of our mission. But if you feel called to support us financially and through prayer and through a really great community that's developing on Patreon, please join us over there. And as always, our prayers are with you, and we will catch you on the flip side.
Thank you so much, Rachel.
I'm tired of being tired, but it's too late to sleep. never make me